All right, I think we're ready to get this on the road. My name is Denny Hurtado. I work at the Indian Education Office at OSPI, and I have been involved with this process since 2003. Originally, we were going to talk a little bit about the history, how we got from 2003 to here today, and we were going to show the video on House Bill 1495, but because we're running behind schedule, I'm going to skip all that stuff and let our lead presenters get into the meat of the curriculum so that you guys all know how to become trainers of our curriculum. The goal is for you all to become trainers of our curriculum so that you can go into your districts and train your teachers how to use our curriculum. So first of all, let me say I want to thank the Tulalip tribes for allowing us to be here on their traditional lands and territories. This beautiful place right here, they let us use it for free, and because it's all part of a partnership and a relationship that we have with the tribe. And one of the biggest things that we profess in our curriculum is first and foremost that you have to have the relationship with your local tribe or your local tribal community. That's the best venue for working with our curriculum, is working with the local peoples in talking about tribal sovereignty. And so my Indian name is Tachmi Ashton. I'm from the Skokomish tribe. Once those clouds lift, you'll get to see where I'm from in the Olympic Mountains over here. It's a beautiful view they have here on this site.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our inaugural training for Since Time Immemorial, Tribal Sovereignty in Washington State. We'd also like to call this, you all get to learn from our mistakes in the training that we've conducted over the past 2 years. And Jerry's going to talk a little bit about our hopes and the purpose and the flow of today's curriculum. But before that happens, what we like to do in our sessions is introductions. And so when you introduce yourselves as trainers, and if you have a tribal affiliation, you definitely mention that, and then go into the story, a small story, short story, brief story about the journey that brought you here. And the reason why we do that is to invite others to tell their stories. Denny Hurtado talked about this curriculum being all about building relationships, and you need to think about building relationships with your participants as well. A lot of the curriculum that we'll be going over and asking teachers to explore is very emotional, very personal in nature for a lot of us. And so you as presenters need to present a little of your personal self to invite others and to create a safe environment for your participants to be able to be entirely present. So at the beginning of the presentations, both Jerry and I tell our stories briefly. He's a little better at being a little more brief than I am, but and so my name is Shanna Brown. I am a descendant of the Yakama Nation. I was born and raised on the reservation and spent all of my years in the public schools of Wapato and Toppenish, and never knew that my tribe had a history. I had an inkling that that it was kind of like a club, and that there were leaders of the club, and the club did things for the tribe. And the club, even had a tribal police department, but it never occurred to me that there was a nation, that there was a sovereign government, and that there were specific aims and goals of my tribe. And it wasn't until I became a teacher that I decided to take on that journey, because if I didn't, who else would? And so I started very small with my class, and it grew and grew and grew and grew, and brought me back to Seattle, where I identified Denny Hurtado, he identified me, and we started working together a long time ago, 1999. And it was around 2005 that we started this process with the curriculum that we'll go into a little bit later. And I believe that I've experienced all I have, all of the joys and frustrations to bring today. So thank you very much for letting me be here with you.
My name's Jerry Price. I've taught for the last 15 years in the Yelm Community Schools, which is just a few miles down the road from Nisqually. I actually grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, but my family actually homesteaded in Yelm on the Yelm Prairie back in the 1850s, and so it's been sort of a full circle journey for me. Regardless of that, I really didn't have a lot of knowledge about the Nisqually down the road for the early days of my teaching career. I knew they existed. I knew there was a casino and a gas station, and that I had some students in my classes that were Nisqually, but that's about the extent of my knowledge. Although I was curious, I wasn't very adept at researching or finding information out. I just happened to be on I was invited, Caleb Perkins from OSPI several years ago invited me to be on the grade level expectation development for the reconstituting, I guess, of those goals. And I met Shanna, and we did a lot of work for 2 years through OSPI with that. And then through that work, Denny got my name as somebody who might be interested in sitting on the Tribal Sovereignty Curriculum Committee as a teacher representative. There were a lot of tribal members, there were lawyers, there were state representatives, there was Shanna, and I said, sure. I mean, come on, go to a few board meetings, no big deal. And so I ended up on that committee, and boy, did that steamroll. It was supposed to be a few lessons that would be developed for tribal sovereignty, and that just as tribal members from all over the state who are stakeholders in this process said, hey, well, we got to include this, and we got to include this, and it went from 3 to 20 to 50 to 80, and so Shanna a little stressed out, and because she was the only writer at that time, and they asked me if I would step in and help out with the writing, and so it's been a tremendous process for me, because I've really gone from knowing nearly nothing about tribal history in Washington State to knowing enough that I feel pretty competent when I'm in front of my students, sharing that knowledge and what I do know. And it has been a learning process. I learned last night. I mean, I've been putting this together. We've been putting this curriculum together, and I think Shanna and I are very proud of it. It is definitely a work in progress, and so we're excited to share that with you today.
Good. So when you are introducing yourself, after you're done introducing yourself to your participants, don't make the mistake that we did the first training. So we asked everyone to identify, to introduce themselves, to talk about why they were here, and 2 hours later we were done. And so this is where your teaching skills, where your classroom skills are definitely going to come into play. If you have a smaller group, it's entirely appropriate for you to spend that time. If you have a larger group, we suggest a couple of things. Either getting into small groups, table groups, without having participants move, so you're not wasting time there, or having table partners, just sharing with your partner, so you are encouraging that storytelling, but on a much smaller scale. And then when your participants introduce themselves, we can keep the ball rolling with their name, their school, and then maybe 1 word or 2 words that describe what brings them here today, their mood, their hopes, their fears, any of those feelings and experiences that they're bringing to your session. And that tends to move things on a little bit.